Alright, what is good, ladies and gentlemen, is the Mass Reviewer back again with another review, and tonight we are doing a review for The Amazing Spider-Man. That is right, this is a rewatch for me, and I don't really, actually I will give a bit of background. I watched this film when I was younger, and this film actually scared me as a kid. I had trouble sleeping. I think they showed it to us in camp at one point when I was in summer camp one year, and I had trouble sleeping because I was afraid of the lizard when I was a kid. So on rewatch, it wasn't scary, and yep. So that's just the background I wanted to give, and with that said, let us just begin, starting off with the plot. So the plot of this film is that basically it is another origin story for Spider-Man. You had the original Spider-Man movie that came out in, I forgot what year it was at this point, but there was the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and this is basically the origin story of Spider-Man told once again. Andrew Garfield is the actor playing Spider-Man, and it's different though. It's not the same one for one. You have the Lizard as the main villain of the film, and they don't have MJ. Mary Jane is not in this film. You have instead Gwen Stacy, who is the love interest for Peter Parker. And I would say that first, just off the bat, I think that she is the romance. Actually, it's pretty rare, but this is one of the so far out of all the Marvel films I reviewed, this is one of the romances I actually felt a bit invested in. I would say so far. What is that? Frank Castle and Joan from Punisher 2004. Reed Richards and Sue Storm from Fantastic Four, and so this is the third romance that I actually thought was decently well done, I would say. So I did actually like the romance between Peter and Gwen. I thought it actually felt decently developed, where they meet and then it's they start bonding and stuff. Eventually Peter gets invited over to Gwen's house for dinner and stuff. Eventually Gwen herself finds out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. I'm kind of not really recapping the plot, but I do think that's, yeah, so it's interesting, this film, where you actually have Gwen Stacy, where she finds out that Peter is Spider-Man, whereas in the original trilogy, I'm pretty sure MJ, she did not know about Peter Parker being Did she know, actually? I'm trying to remember. It's been a bit since I reviewed the original Spider-Man films, but from what I remember, she did not at any point. I'm going to check real quick if anyone from the original trilogy knew Peter Parker's identity. Give me a second here. Right, yeah, so I forgot, at the end of the second Spider-Man movie, MJ does end up finding out that Peter is Spider-Man, as well as there's also Harry Osborn that found out as well in the second film. So yeah, anyway, so overall, yeah, the romance, I think, was done better in this film. It was, yeah, interesting, kind of changing it up. And anyway, the plot itself is basically, again, it's an origin story for Spider-Man. Peter Parker, he goes to Oscorp, he ends up getting bitten by a spider, and he gets powers from it. The start of the film is him trying to go after the person that killed Uncle Ben, and yeah, in this film, Dr. Kurt Connors, he wants to use, his whole thing is that basically he wants to cross the genetics of reptilians with the genetics of humans in order to give humans the ability to regrow limbs, since he himself lost an arm. So he wants to, basically his whole motive is to get his arm back, but it does lead to him managing to grow his arm back. But then the side effects are that I think Peter describes it as the foreign gene or something like that. Basically, the reptilian DNA ends up overpowering the human DNA, and so as a result, he ends up turning into the lizard. It makes him stronger, faster, smarter, more aggressive. Basically, everything just gets kind of amplified, and so from there he wants to basically turn the entire city into basically the same thing, that the same kind of species that he has become, in order to, he no longer just wants to make everyone equal. His original motive was to help people with disabilities basically just get better, but now it's just he wants to improve humanity to the point that humanity reaches perfection on the evolutionary timeline, I guess. So yeah, that's his motive. Eventually, Peter, eventually towards the end, he finds out about Dr. Kurt Connors' plan, and then he goes to stop him. And so I think while this is happening, also Gwen's father, the police chief of New York City, is investigating the stuff going on with the lizard, but at the same time he's also investigating the stuff about Spider-Man, and he's kind of serving the same role that J. Jonah Jameson did in the original trilogy, where he is going after Spider-Man, as in he does not think that he is a hero, he thinks that he's a vigilante menace, and so he is trying to that there was an argument during the dinner scene between Peter and Gwen's father. So eventually, yeah, Peter, he makes it to the Oscorp Tower, where Gwen, she made an antidote for Peter to use. Eventually, Gwen's father, I forgot his name, but yeah, the chief shows up, tells Gwen to go home basically because it's dangerous, but he himself takes the antidote up to Oscorp Tower. He gives it to Peter. Peter switches it out in the process. I think Lizard ends up killing the chief, and so yeah, the Peter switched it in time, so the antidote goes off. It cures all the earlier in the film, like there were some cops that tried to stop the Lizard. He exposed them to the same the serum that turned himself into the Lizard, so they all started turning into reptiles. But now that the antidote was shut off in this like machine that's supposed to spray the entire city with any substance that's put into it, so yeah, the antidote is released. Everyone gets cured. Peter is about to fall off the building because like the building is starting to collapse because the structure is unstable because of the battle, and Dr. Connors ends up saving Peter before he falls. And so yeah, the chief is dead. There's a funeral scene. I think before he died, Peter Parker promised. I forgot his name. His name, Gwen Stacy. The character is pretty prominent, so I want to remember his name. So give me a second here. Right. Apparently his name is George Stacy, but I think they mostly just refer to him as Captain Stacy. So anyway, Captain Stacy makes Peter promise that he will not. He. By the way, I think early in the film also he actually found out that Peter was Spider-Man, so I forgot to mention that. But anyway, he makes Peter promise that he will not see Gwen anymore to keep her away from danger. And so he doesn't end up going to the funeral, and then Gwen goes to his house to like ask him about it, basically. And so she kind of tells that she can tell that basically he promised her dad that he wouldn't see her anymore. And then finally, I think he shows up late to class one day, and I think he makes a promise to the teacher that he won't be late again. And I think she says something as a response to it, and he says some sort of line basically about how the broken promises or the promises you can't keep. No, I think the teacher, she said, don't make promises you can't keep, and then he says to Gwen, but those are the best ones, basically implying that like he's willing to date her again, I guess. So that's I think pretty much where the film ends. So yeah, overall the plot, I would say it's another origin story, I would say, but it is, I think I liked it more so than the actual original Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy origin story. So I would give this plot probably I'm going to go a 4 to 5. I like the plot. Yet another origin story, but doing it differently and better, I would say. So, yeah. In terms of the character, I think that's Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. He definitely feels different than Tobey Maguire's. He feels kind of a bit more, I want to say, shy. And I think maybe Tobey Maguire's was like a bit more nerdy, I would say. But I think probably Andrew Garfield's is like, it feels a bit more socially awkward, I would say. And I think that it was good. He's like a bit more of a skater type of guy. And I think that he did a good job of portraying Spider-Man. There was some sequences where he was like taking down robbers and stuff. I thought those were entertaining. He's got they do a good job of, I think, balancing like this one definitely feels a lot more serious. I'll say that the Amazing Spider-Man movies, they definitely feel like the most serious of the Spider-Man movies. And I think that it's well done, I would say. I think they do a good job of balancing like the serious nature of it with like it's got some like more comedic moments that are in the nature of like the Spider-Man character, I would say. So yeah, Gwen Stacy, I did say that I think that she's better than MJ. I think that she is a good love interest for Peter. She feels like a bit more well-developed, where initially it's like they're just classmates, but then Peter ends up meeting her at Oscorp, and then like from there they kind of start like bonding. Eventually they start dating and stuff. I think that it is a well-done relationship. Besides them, let's see here, I think that the Lizard, he is not one of the best villains, I'll say. Like the motive is just basically he wants to cure disabilities, and then it does lead to him kind of going off the deep end because the mutation, like the serum that he gives himself, caused him to kind of like go crazy and stuff. So I think it's a good villain, I would say, for the film. And yeah, not as good as like Dr. Octopus from the second Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie. And I think maybe in terms of Norman Osborn, I would say that I'm not sure. I'll let it marinate, and then when we actually get to the eventually, whenever that will be, when we get to the actual Spider-Man. Actually, I just realized that. Let me finish my sentence. When we get to the Spider-Man character ranking, then I will get more in depth with it. But I want to say this is actually, we're reviewing this, and I'm pretty sure the new Spider-Man film actually came out about a few days ago. So that is, I just realized that. So anyway, so let's hear who else. Captain Stacy, I think that he was good, a bit of like, serving the role of J. Jonah Jameson as someone that's like kind of giving pushback to Spider-Man, creating like the well, I mean, not really creating a question. It's not like, it's not a matter of like, is Spider-Man doing the right thing? Like it's pretty clear that he is doing the right thing, but he does a good job of like kind of giving some opposition to the character of Peter Parker. So I think that's, let's hear Uncle Ben. I think Uncle Ben was done pretty well in this movie. I think probably a bit, but yeah, I think also probably a bit more so than in the Sam Raimi trilogy. I think Uncle Ben from the Sam Raimi trilogy, he was good, but I also do like this version as well. It's like just I don't know, he feels a bit more younger, I would say. A lot, like, in general, I think a lot of the characters in these films kind of feel a bit younger compared to in the Sam Raimi trilogy, where it's like these, it's still not really believable that like they're high schoolers and stuff, but even so, it's like I think they do feel a bit younger, whereas Uncle Ben, it's like, I actually just realized, like, before I watched the film, I was like thinking like, oh, Uncle Ben and Aunt May, and I realized, wait, these are supposed to be Peter's aunt and uncle, but then I was thinking to myself, like, they look old enough to be his grandparents, so yeah, and then this film is like they actually do feel like the right age where they could realistically be Peter's Peter's aunt and uncle. So Aunt May, she was also a good character, I would say, just, you know, kind of worried about Peter the entire film, serves the role, I guess, that she's meant to serve. Let's see here, anyone else that I'm forgetting? Flash Thompson, the bully of Spider-Man, you know, does a good job, I guess, bullying Peter at the start, but he is actually kind of sympathetic towards Peter, like, after his uncle dies, and so I thought that was a good detail of him, and by the end of the film, I think they're, like, fine with each other. So, yeah, overall, the characters, I would give probably, I'll go like a 7 out of 10. I'll say pretty good characters, and yeah. In terms of the settings, let's see here, Oscorp is pretty nice. I actually really liked the Oscorp building. I thought that was very cool. The high school itself, you know, all right, we just saw, like, some locker room areas, a basketball court, some science laboratories. You know, we actually saw a decent amount of the high school, so there was the sewage area, and I did not really care for it too much, but it was fine. The streets of New York, it was all right, I would say. Overall, I would give the settings probably just I'll go like a 7 out of 10. I think the actual, like, the city, it does feel, I did mention, like, the Amazing Spider-Man films, they do feel kind of darker, and I do think that the city did feel kind of a bit less, it feels like maybe the original Sam Raimi trilogy, it was like a bit more, I want to say, faithful to the comics. It feels like where it did feel like more of a comic setting of a movie, it did feel like a lot more bright and stuff, and it might just be because the film is older, so it matches like the more kind of older aesthetic of comic books. But this film, it does feel a lot more realistic and, yeah, like I mentioned, darker and stuff. So the city itself, it feels kind of like it's set like a lot in the nighttime and stuff. There's not as many daytime sequences from what I remember. So yeah. In terms of the action, I liked the action. It was cool. It felt very, very fluid and stuff. Definitely, yeah, just more, you know, Spider-Man fighting. It's cool. I think the Lizard himself, he doesn't have any really cool powers. He can, like, regenerate limbs. He's kind of like just a Hulk kind of character, where not necessarily the Hulk. The Hulk is more of like actual destruction, but this character is just kind of a large, agile villain that can, like, has claws and stuff. So it's not like the coolest thing ever, but, you know, it made for some cool action sequences. I did like probably the high school fight was one of the best in the movie, I would say. Besides that, there was a lot of the earlier stuff was just basically Peter kind of learning his powers and stuff, so he does end up fighting some actual people that aren't villains or anything. So those were fine as well, but it was pretty one-sided, most of them. So yeah, I did like the fight scenes between the Lizard and Peter, mainly for the high school fight. Again, besides that, the final fight, it was also good, I would say. Just overall, I would give the action, I would say, probably I'll go I'm thinking between like a 6.5 to a 7. I'll probably just give it a 6.5. I'll say it was good action, and yeah. In terms of the worst thing, I think that the worst thing was, I'm not sure. I guess, yeah, I don't know. Again, with this worst category, it's like I just need I shouldn't be thinking too hard about it. If nothing really comes to mind, then I should probably just, like, reuse the worst score, because I don't know. I was thinking maybe I should, like, start pausing the video for the worst thing to, like, or maybe think about it in advance, but I don't know. Most of my thoughts, I try to, like, do it in the actual recording itself, while it's like I have to think of it on the spot, because that is inherently a more honest kind of score that I'm giving if it's, like, on the spot that I have to think about it, rather than, like, beforehand I prepare the scores. So, but anyway, yeah, the worst thing, I can't think of anything in mind, so I will probably just reuse the worst score, which was the action, which I gave a 6.5, so we'll go another 6.5 for the action, which, you know, that's a pretty good worst score to have, a 6.5, yeah, good action. So in terms of the best thing, I will say that the best thing was, I'm not really sure. I think I'm just going to, once again, just reuse the best score, which was the plot, so I will go another 4 to 5 for the plot, because, yeah, I did like this plot as an origin story. You know, it's like, if you already had an origin story movie, then you don't really want to, most of the time I would say, like, you don't really want to do another one, but I think that in this case, it worked, I would say. I would say that it was even probably, I liked it more than the original Sam Raimi trilogy origin story, I would say. So, yeah, overall, just another 4 to 5 for the plot. Let's hear any extra notes that I did not mention. I did like the fact that, I think I mentioned this actually, but once again, I did like the fact that even after he gets defeated, Dr. Connors does end up still saving Spider-Man. I like that detail where it's like the serum itself was like kind of making him crazy, but he himself was not like a bad character, and he still kind of cared about Peter. So, yeah. And that is all the extra notes, so I'm going to do the calculations. So, King Crimson. All right, so it ends up coming out to about a 7 out of 10, which would be pretty good, but I think I'd give it maybe a bit higher than that. I think I'd call it like between a 7 to a 7.5. I thought it was between pretty good and very good. And I think I will be, I'm not sure, should I be generous about it? I think I'll probably just be harsh with it. I think I'm going to call it a 7 out of 10. I thought it was pretty good, I would say. And definitely on rewatch, I think I like it probably a bit more so on rewatch because when I was younger, I was mostly just scared of it. So I think I may have just not liked the film for the fact that I was scared of the lizard when I was younger. So yeah, definitely better on rewatch where I'm not scared of the main antagonist, I would say. So yeah, overall 7 out of 10, pretty good film. And yeah, that is pretty much all there is to it. So if you have any recommendations, any shows, movies, video game stories, anime, manga, web series, anything that you want me to review, leave it in the comments and I will maybe possibly check it out. With that said, that is pretty much all there is to it, so let's leave it at that.